Welcome to Slow News Day Live. My name is Steve Poikinen. I am here in Boulder Creek, California, where our state flag is a flannel shirt, our state bird is a pit bull, and our state flower is cannabis. Um, Joining me today is friend of the show, wonderful human in general, Pat Cote, also known as Pat the Berner, also known as Nate's Liver, the satirist formerly known as Peter Douche's Liaison. I did that in all one breath. Holy crap,
Wow.
Pat, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Right on, Steve. What's up, man? Just coming off the California Democratic Party conventions, which you know about. And man, what a wild, crazy shit show there.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for, man, because the thing that frustrates me, not the most, but it's up there with California politics in general, is that we're supposed to be this, like, solid blue state. We've got a Democratic supermajority in the legislature. We've got the world's handsomest mayor, who is
And
now
yet,
the world's handsomest progressive governor, supposedly.
right,
And yet we've got
no Medicare
nothing.
for all.
Yeah, we
Right.
we we can't get high speed rail. We can't pass a $15 an hour minimum wage statewide, let alone anything close to a comparable living wage. We can't pass rent control. We can't do public banks. We're just at every step we're stymied by corporate interests, and having been in the shit, as it were, maybe you could help shed a little bit of light on that.
Well, the convention. So this is the first time I've ever had news credentials and gone, with access to some of this stuff. Because the CADem convention, what it is, you got to. It's pretty much a press access thing. It's not really so public for people. But what I noticed the most is there's a lot of manufacturing consent there. There's a lot of like propaganda bullshit. Because everywhere you go, Bernie's a big loud rock star, I mean,
Right.
he goes into a room, speaks. Some of these are smaller rooms, they're breakout rooms for different caucuses, like the Veterans Caucus, for example. And before he even arrives, he's close because you hear him through the walls. You hear a crowd of people cheering him on. He comes in, gives a speech, half the room leaves, and the people running the show are pounding the gavel, like order, order, upset that there's excitement in the party. And then someone like Klobuchar gets up and speaks to a crowd of now like 30 people. Probably a little more than that, but I mean, and another thing, like where I was going with that is like, so Nancy Pelosi isn't even running for office, right? I mean, she's got her seat, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no reason for, Bernie carries around the Bernie signs, Kamala's got her signs, Beto's got her signs. Why are there Nancy Pelosi signs at this thing?
Well, and she's not even a part of the California State Democratic Party. She's a federally elected official.
Yeah.
She
So
has
here she is with, a team of people all together holding up Pelosi signs. Like, what the fuck? Like, why do you have to pretend she's so well loved that this group honestly just said, let's get some Pelosi signs to this thing? No, we probably paid for it in our DNC donations,
Oh, sure, or at least your anything that went to supporting, like, the California Democratic Party. If you supported them to support down ballot candidates, yeah, absolutely. Nancy Pelosi isn't going to show up to that thing either for free or without a serious need to remind people that she's got pull within the state party because of her family's business concerns.
Yeah, and that's the whole show. There's a lot of that. And the media spin on it is that there was all this excitement for people like Kamala Harris, and of course there isn't. I mean, they have their people, but there's no excitement for her. Joe Biden doesn't even show up to the thing. Here's the front runner, and he's not showing up to one of the most influential states that votes early in the Democratic primaries.
Yeah, and that's new, and maybe nobody bothered to tell Joe Biden about it. You know, maybe he thinks it's still in June. He's not aware. I don't know. He's
He does feel like he's stuck in 1992 or something, you know,
Jesus Christ,
at
man, that
best.
fucking piece of work. I think he knew that he was gonna get the same treatment that what's his nuts did when he got booed for a minute straight.
Was that Tom Delaney or Tom Donnelly or Joe? What's
I
his name?
Jeff,
Yeah,
I don't I don't know.
yeah,
Date me, please, AOC. I
yeah.
think.
Well, just to give you an example of this convention, like, you know, there are like in the main room something like, I don't know, 5,000 people or something. It's a big thing, and then, you know, people walk around to the breakout smaller rooms. But Bernie has a circus with him. Tom Delaney literally walked by me with one person with him. No media asking questions. Nobody's like, hey, that's Tom Delaney. I had to point it out to people. I'm like, hey, there's a presidential candidate just walked by me. And then I had to go to the who the hell is Tom Delaney, you know.
You know what's funny is I think his real name's John, but I'm not sure.
Oh, it is
I'm not
John.
100% on that. I'm
We've
not.
been we've been fucking his name up so much I don't even know it anymore.
I had Brooke Hines on for a little bit yesterday until either the feed got interrupted or the computer got too hot or something. But uh, we were talking about Biden not showing up and Delaney getting booed, and I kind of feel like had Biden shown up, he
Right.
wouldn't have just been booed for a minute. He would have been booed every time he tried to open his mouth.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably accurate. I mean, he would have had enough manufactured support to kind of drown it out, and you know, like it seems like they had some strategic chance to, you know, that they bring up when there's an anti somebody, you know,
Oh
chant
yeah.
going. You
Do
know,
you
it's like,
remember at the 2016 convention, they were
yeah,
the flyer that went out that was like, when the progressives chant no more war, you chant USA.
right. And someone is focus group, like how the words collide in the air and cancel out you optically, you know, audio, you know. But so what there were a lot of at the convention is people printed out "Where's Joe Biden" flyers.
Okay.
So that was good to see.
Well, I think, and I'm not 100% on this, but I think the first time that I had you on the podcast, I predicted that Kamala would not win her home state.
Probably, and I'm in agreement with you there. I mean, if she doesn't get, I mean, she's downhill after California if she doesn't take it. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. How do you can't manufacture support when you don't take your home state? I mean, their whole narrative falls apart, you know.
I'll tell you what. They don't need to win to stay in the race, though. Like
Right.
the whole point is just to make sure that there's not a 51% majority, whatever the threshold
Right.
is for
50
that
plus
candidate.
one. Right.
And you have to get 15% of the vote to earn a single delegate.
Right.
She's polling at 17% in California right now, unless she just only campaigns in LA and San Francisco and does it until the primary. She may not hit that 15% threshold. She may not even get a delegate from her home state, which I would love to see.
Which would be phenomenal. And, you know, we all bullshit around like pontificating about the strategies going on here, and we don't know. But there's a theory that, in a way, Biden is seeding California for that purpose, so that Kamala, I mean, it's, you know, it's fringe shit, but we talk about all this shit, and I mean, if the establishment gets behind Biden in California, then Kamala's going to be toast, you know.
Oh, sure.
So this might be the way to buy time to get a three-way race in the end, which is how they can elect, you know, a shit centrist.
Yeah. I think that there's a fair chance that Warren beats Kamala Harris in California. I think that they're really trying to like
Yeah.
foster her on more people as not just the alternative to Joe Biden, but the alternative to Bernie Sanders as well. And no matter how it plays out, Warren's the Judas goat in 2020.
Right. And I agree. And I think California is the kind of state that would naturally be inclined to support her if it wasn't for Bernie. You know, just the sort of semi-informed, it feels like she's super progressive, you know.
Well, that's a template that she has
Right.
perfected and then passed on to other fake progressives, and I include Rokana among them because she's got this amazing like soundbite game. She's got this amazing fucking. She sounds like a super badass when she's grilling somebody during a Senate hearing. But then she goes and she takes money from the securities interest while she's crafting the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which
Right.
comes out toothless and then gets negotiated back to a point of even more ineffectiveness. They hold up one or two companies as examples who already went through a massive stock sell off ahead of this, and it looks like it's a successful organization.
Yep, I'm with you. And then, you know, on Roe too, I waffle on him. He's not the worst, but I think he undermines Bernie sometimes. Like, you know, he supported the bill that wasn't Medicare for all. I'm not sure which one, but you know, you just can't do that. Bernie's message is, you know, the no middle ground is the hashtag they rolled out at the convention for his
Yeah.
speech. But you know, this is one of his campaign co-chairs supporting a non-Medicare for all bill.
Well, and he goes and he praises Hillary Clinton on Rachel Maddow, and he goes and he fucking like he was simultaneously supporting Joe Crowley and AOC when
the
that
dual endorsement. Yeah.
um,
I think strategically they're trying to use him as the middleman to the centrist. You know, he's the establishment guy that plays nice but still progressive. And I don't totally discount Roe. I don't know that he's the best messenger right now.
he beat the progressive in his primary with Silicon Valley's money. And that like that ultimately that and he was the first person to self-announce himself as the Justice Democrat. And that organization is a bunch of shady little fucking grifters if I've ever seen one in my entire life. Like they've got that shit down. They can spend 87% of all of their donations on personal salary and fucking consultants, and nobody bats an eye.
Yeah. Well, they reached out to me to do some social media for them at one point, and they were just so disorganized I couldn't even do it. I mean, you know, they asked me to do it, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll tweet some shit for Justice Dems once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would send me stuff to tweet, and I'm like, you haven't given me access to any of the programs. Like, you know. So anyway, but that was one of the critiques, regardless of what they did with their money, is that they weren't very well organized, at least in the beginning. But I can't speak to them now too much. So
yeah, what I have to go on a lot more than just, you know, a Justice Dem gets elected and the first thing they do is back Nancy Pelosi and vote for Pago. More than that is the open secrets reporting on their financials, finding out that they gave $16 to Paula Jean Swearigan for her campaign. That's the sum total of what they gave her. I donated $54 to her campaign.
yeah, I mean, you got these candidates that can actually win. They're super progressive, and you're not backing them. But so before I forget, I do want to say thanks to Real Progressives. So Real Progressives hooked me up with the press credentials, and I was out there doing this for them, filming a lot of the events. So
yeah, and shout out to Real Progressives. We love that crew here on this show. I've had Steve Grumbine and Nick Maslow and Savage Joy on before, and would like to have all of them back at some point. And they're good peoples, and they're good peoples for giving you those credentials. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, right on. So at the event, I was hoping to do a mix of like real reporting and real interviews and some Peter Douche, bullshit
Yeah.
satire stuff. But there's a learning curve to the tech side of this stuff, and we had lots of technical issues, which probably fall on me mostly. And then I was there for Saturday and Sunday, and I didn't know Sunday is a bus day. Pretty much, they just get up in the morning, have a thing, and then it's over. And so, because of some of the technical problems, some of the interviews I tried to do Saturday, we did on Sunday, which pretty much wrapped up my whole day. So, but I mean, great to be out there. That you got all kinds of Dems that you recognize just floating around like regular people, which they are. But seeing them out there is kind of nice,
And so you weren't there for any of the California Democratic Party chair shit between Rusty Hicks and Kimberly Ellis? That wasn't a part of the gig.
Yeah, not really. I mean, I went to so no, I wasn't there for that. But I did hear from a lot of people regarding that election that some of the union members were threatened with their positions if they backed Ellis, something like 100. So, same fuckery.
Yeah, I mean, and we know we're not gonna say anybody's name or anything like that, because nobody will go on the fucking record for this whatsoever. So even how we got the information, I'm not gonna say that out loud. But the SEIU has had an incredible stronghold over California politics for a really long time. And I have friends that are SEIU members. I got the recruiting pitch a long time ago, like right after I first got here to the state. And part of the pitch to me was the massive amount of influence that they wield over state politics. And this is a kind of a pathway to larger things if you want it, sort of deal. And what it sounded to me like was a pyramid scheme that I didn't want to be a part of. So I said no.
Well, I mean, the problem is these groups don't end up representing their members very well. The leadership, when the leadership picks the endorsements and not the people, you got a real problem. And that's Hillary had all the union leadership backing her, and the union members didn't. And we're doing that all over again.
Well, and that's been the problem for the last since the first real, I guess, since the last time there was a contested Democratic Party convention about 1972, when like the all-out war on unions was being waged by both political parties. And over the last 45 years, we've gone from nearly half or more of the country being union to now under 11% total. That's government employees, that's everyone in a union, less than 11% of the country. So to navigate that, union bosses have partnered with management, and they negotiate with management not on behalf of the workers, but on how much are the workers willing to get fucked to still keep their health insurance.
Right, the maximum level of fuckery that will be tolerable before the yellow vests. And
yeah, I'm gonna try and slide out of the direct sun here a little bit. Anywho, so yeah, so when we're in a situation where the union bosses have the exact opposite role that they're supposed to play, it allows them all the room in the world to wield that leverage over their employees to say, no, you vote for our guy.
Yeah, well, it's crazy seeing Biden out there as the union guy. Like, he's trying to sell himself as the union guy. It's just, we're peak absurdity level here this election cycle.
We live in a fucking cartoon, Pat. We do.
Oh, shit.
It's when when the guy who was openly like pro segregation,
Yeah, anti-busing, uh,
um, completely anti-woman, who just by political expediency managed to vote along party lines enough to up his rating.
yeah, I mean, just today he said he supports the Hyde Amendment, which
Which I
which
don't,
is
I'm
which is
pretty sure you saw it because Zerlina Maxwell came out with some fucking absolute bullshit on that.
yeah, yeah. I already went off after her today. I mean that, she's the progressive director of programming at Sirius. I mean, how is your progressive director trashing the progressive movement's biggest chance of actually having an impact in politics
Um,
daily?
well, because she's got a job, and her
Yeah,
job is to push this particular narrative. And even though we recognize that it doesn't make sense, she's not delivering that narrative to us. She's delivering it to the people who fucking um, got a Sirius XM package in their car on their way to work, and they think they're being informed in that 30 minutes or hour and 20 minutes or whatever, and they think they're caught up, and now they understand the world around them better. And
right. And what she does is it's errors of omission, consciously omitting the facts that, so it's not that she's saying something that's a lie. Like today she said that Bernie didn't, wasn't against, or wasn't for repealing the Hyde Amendment until Hillary folks and black people got upset about it. Well, the truth is he voted against it in 1993 and has been against it the entire time. It just wasn't written into his Medicare for All bill.
yeah,
But she leaves that part out, and it sounds like, whoa, if you're prone to being anti-Bernie, and if you listen to her, you probably are, because you've heard enough subtle shade that just perfectly fits, and it's your cognitive dissonance just keeps going on. You get to work, you get back on your rat race, the hamster wheel at work, and you go home, you listen to some more bullshit, get upset at Bernie some more.
yeah, and go buy some donuts and call it a fucking day.
Right. Excuse me.
All good. I What I like seeing though is that, like, more often now the Zerlina Maxwells, the Jenny Rubins,
Right.
the fucking Eichenwalds, and fucking even Iglesias to some extent are getting shit talked to them and ratioed in a lot of cases when they come out with this fucking like provable, demonstrable nonsense.
Right. And I mean, if you're Zerlina, I would think you shouldn't even be on Twitter. I mean, she's less successful because she's on Twitter. If she just stayed in her little world of the serious people, there's no counter message to her. But thankfully, at least on Twitter, we can deprogram all the bullshit she says to people.
And what cracks me up is that there's people in that thread that are agreeing with her in between all of these screenshots
Yeah.
of Bernie's voting record.
It's amazing. Like, straight facts, and they still just ignore it. But so to bring it back to the convention is good for that, because you see what the real support is. So anyone working in the press that wrote anything negative about support for Bernie at this thing is just a flat out liar. There's no way to read that conference, even with all the party insiders there and all the delegates up in the state. Support for Bernie is huge.
See, now what interests me more and what gets me kicked out of these things is fucking doing my damnedest to sneak in on those insider fucking conversations as they take place after hours.
Right.
And what gets me kicked out is not that I misbehave while it's going on, but that I then go talk about it.
Right. Well, check this out. So the the Democratic Party, of course, got a lot of shit for putting their their thumbs on the scale in 2015, 16.
Yeah.
So here's a neutral party event, and the press is all given with your press thing lanyards that say Kamala Harris.
Okay.
I mean, how is that right that the press gets this Kamala Harris lanyard?
That is subtle. She's not even the only person from that state running for president. Like, you think they would have
well,
up a little bit.
Yeah.
Even Marianne Williamson, did she turn up for that?
That's a good question. I didn't see her or hear about her. Yeah.
Fucking funny.
I mean, at the event, you're chasing around all these people to different rooms. It's just kind of chaos figuring out where to go. It's not very well laid out schedule wise for what's where in this place.
Yeah, no, I covered the Republican National Convention in 2008. I had lost my position at that particular outlet by the time the Democratic Convention rolled around. But that was because I went out in style, and that's a story that I will save for another time. But yeah, I mean, even the big national conventions are laid out dumb.
Yeah. I don't know if it's strategic because, I mean, there are a lot of events that I know they don't want press to be at, but since press is given access to all these events, if they had advertised certain events, I imagine, at least progressive press would sneak in there. Mainstream media press is never going to go to anything except for the main room bullshit.
What they do is they play hell with the schedule.
Yeah.
And they make it so that, like, the shit that you're there on orders to cover always coincides with like 3 other things that that's where the dirt's going down.
Right. That's exactly it.
Yeah. It's you're right. It's 100% on purpose. It's the last thing that an organization like the California Democratic Party or the DNC or the RNC wants is too many people finding out what they're up to at the same time. Because especially when it's a room full of reporters, let alone, I guess, regular people or party insiders or donors or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, they've got to play hell with it a little bit just to make sure that some of that stuff stays compartmentalized.
Yeah. So one of the coolest things I was at was the Bernie fundraiser. I ended up getting into that, and that was nice because you got to see a little more unfiltered guys because they didn't want the press to film that event. So I mean, some of the regular people in attendance did, but you got Bernie up there talking about, like, at one point he said, "This is California, where marijuana is legal." He's like, "I didn't smoke any." Long pause. "Tonight."
All right.
So,
all right. Okay.
So he was kind of putting out a marijuana friendly kind of vibe, and Ben from Ben and Jerry's was there. Dr. Cornel West was out partying a lot of the weekend.
Is that where the fucking Joe Biden needs to get off the crack pipe thing happened?
That was an event right after that. So that was Ben and Dr. Cornel West. It was just basically at the convention center. They were selling beer and people were loose with the DJ kind of thing. So
that's funny shit. But hearing Cornel West say the author of the 1994 crime bill needs to get off the crack pipe was pretty fucking funny to me. It was. I full marks for that, for the Reverend Dr. Brother Cornel West.
Right.
I don't know how much time you have, man. I have to get my ass to work here soon, though.
Yeah, no worries. Just rap when you need to rap, man.
All right. I gotta fucking. There was a picture that you put up holding a bottle of Dow wine.
Oh yeah.
And I gotta know if it tasted like a mea culpa.
You know what? I'm sure it would. We just staged them. So we're at brunch the next day with a whole bunch of Twitter folks, JV Graz, Tina Desiree Berg, you know, a bunch of us. And we're like, oh, we got to get a Dow picture, you know, because the brunch thing was all part of the Peter Douche stuff. You know, the shitty centrists, you know, going to brunch and protesting with their pussy hats and all that stuff. So we look on the menu and there's Dow wine. So we had the guy bring out a whole bunch of Dow wine, had a few mimosas and a good time.
That's good shit, man. That is.
Yeah. And that dude, I don't know if he's fully converted. It seems like it could still be a calculation to support someone like Warren, who's sort of between progressives and centrist. But either way, I think what he's doing now is sort of a net positive for progressives because he's attacking the establishment a little. So
I think it's funny. I think he's doing. I don't trust him any further than like David Hogg could throw him. You know?
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. And I think the move would be to back Warren, who he's hinted he likes the most.
Yeah.
So yeah. How do you get Warren supporters over to you? You can't with the message that, you know, his 2016 vibe would never get progressives on board.
Mm.
So this is how you have to do it.
And he's got Anna Kasparian as like who's full on Team Warren, fucking smear queen for anyone else. It would be a great cartoon. It would be a great moment in this cartoon that we fucking live in to see a fucking pro Warren event co-hosted by Peter Dow and Anna Kasparian.
Can I be the third on that panel? I don't know if it could ever happen, but
you and Nico House.
Yeah, he was there. I saw him walk by and I meant to catch up and say hi, but you know, it's just crazy. People fly by in 10 seconds and you never see him again. But anyway, me and a few other lefties were talking about trying to make a Peter Douche, Peter Dow, somebody else thing actually happen. And you know, he might actually be up for it. He's trying to build his cred up a little bit. It wouldn't necessarily be a good thing for him, but he might take the bait is the hope.
Right? Oh my God. Who would you have set that up though to make it seem like it wasn't a total fucking
hit job?
Yeah.
That's a good question. We have to find some middle ground, but you know, maybe the Humanist Report, because he's kind of on side with Dow believing his conversion. I don't know. Yeah. I bet Kulinski could get him to do it. Yeah, I mean, the question is, do I have enough stock to make it happen? And probably not, but I would be on board in a heartbeat if we could.
You kept the guy famous for 2 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, he legitimately, you know, probably hates my guts. But somewhere in the back of his mind, I think he knows he earned it.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm reading down the comments a little bit. If I could think of another like really, really skinny armed person, I would have gone with someone other than David Hogg, but I was just reading his tweets and he stuck out in my mind. I'm sorry about that, Mr. Broken Oz. I didn't mean to offend you. We'll go with could we go with Alyssa Milano? I don't trust Peter Dow any further than Alyssa Milano can throw him. She looks like she works out too. Like that might work out better for me.
I mean, there's a person that will never actually get on a panel with a progressive because she can get shredded.
I don't know what possesses people to like just lay out how much they don't get it.
Yeah.
And then be shocked when there's pushback.
It's living in a bougie little bubble, you know, and her bougie little bubble, people just, they still think you're a Democrat, you're a better person. End of the story. And that's all kind of all you have to know. And so anyone going after a Democrat is going after the better person. So you better back shit people like Biden and ignore all his, you know, gropey, touchy, hair sniffing stuff, you know.
So I've been on this thing lately where I'm convinced that the consent has been manufactured, and now what they do is manufacture confusion, because the confusion enables the division. And
Right.
all that does is push Team Blue further into their blue corner and Team Red further into their corner. And it makes them both proud of not looking outside of that corner or that bubble, and fearful of information that doesn't come from within that bubble. And
Yeah. And the question to me is how complicit are those people, like Alyssa Milano in the plan to do that? Or are they just, have they been brainwashed by all the fear mongering that they buy these narratives that we all need to be united and all that crap,
I think that, well, okay, so on the podcast, I had a buddy who I know from early organizing in 2015, and he was, during the 2016 election, he was working for the Bernie campaign and also working at a script factory in Hollywood.
Okay.
The guy who owns the office where all these scripts were coming out is a DNC mega donor, and part of Carlos's job was to write vice presidential acceptance speeches for 4 candidates, and Elizabeth Warren was one of them.
Right.
Part of his job also was to meet with a group of writers literally called WAG, the Writers and Actors Guild, and come up with all those speeches that you see in the Senate hearings,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of talking points, so yeah, you're on target in terms of there is participation by people like, I'm not going to necessarily say that Alyssa Milano is being compensated for it, but it's quite possible that she's having a lot of her material written on her behalf and she's not coming up with it herself,
Right.
and she's had her picture taken with Joe Biden enough times and like had him on voluntarily right after the fucking all the Groper videos came out.
Yeah.
So it would be, I would be hard pressed to say that she is not a willing actor in manufacturing the confusion. And then
Yeah.
you,
And they're definitely, regardless of one particular candidate, you called it. I mean, it's still the muddy the water strategy. That's why Biden comes out and says he's the most progressive. It's not because people believe it. It's just because it's just like, oh, he says he's progressive. He there must be something there, so that, the masses, the people that kind of barely care about this shit or barely tune into it, it gives them cover to just buy the nonsense. Like, well, he's got to be progressive too.
for enough people, the only thing the candidate has to be is more palatable than Trump. And that's the only thing that matters. And it makes me want to like take a stale trout and wrap it around a baseball bat with barbed wire and just,
But see, that's the thing is, that's the only argument that Biden really has. And so when that starts falling apart because of his touching kids stuff, his, the optics stuff, more than the policy stuff, will kill Biden. Unfortunately, it should be the other way around, but the optics stuff will be what brings him down.
Well, fucking, I think Gordon Dimmick came up with this expression, and I'm adopting it because it's perfect. But Mockingbird media, what Mockingbird media is trying to do, in terms of that, it is fucking make everybody a progressive.
Yeah, that's been their plan as soon as they lost in 2016. Everyone's
it's they take a phrase or they take a position or and they ruin so thoroughly what the definition of the word is that it becomes another like weasel word, a nonsense word. And you can say, I've got a great climate plan, and your climate plan was written by your advisor who just stepped down from the board of a liquid natural gas company.
Are you talking specifically about Biden's plan that he came out with today?
What he didn't plagiarize.
Yeah. So he plagiarized sections written by the coal industry.
No.
I mean, plagiarizing is bad enough, but plagiarizing, cutting and pasting shit right from the coal industry into your climate plan, that should be a career ender for a Democrat.
Yeah, I mean, but okay, so
but it isn't. That's
the Democratic Party has pro-life candidates. The Democratic Party has Joe Manchins. The Democratic Party has Chuck Schumer, who personally shepherded the fast tracking of like over 50 right-wing judges to lower court appointments for lifetime positions. And what really pisses them off is somebody going, that's not what we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Sam Tripoli, the first time I think I saw him on Jimmy Dore's show, said people are more concerned with being right than doing right. And if you've got that media giving you all of your talking points, and your talking points are what you know, and they, by comparison to the Republican talking points that you're hearing, are demonstrably right when you go to look it up on all your safe source Atlantic Council approved fucking sites.
Exactly.
It's going to bear out that you're right, so armed with your half knowledge, you go forth like a truth warrior, and you're surprised when people are like, no, there's literally mountains of evidence that contradicts everything that you have to say. And if you just take a moment to look at it, I'm sure you'll be, like super thrilled with all this new information, and you'll want to invite me to the cookout. And
right. I think they're kind of fucked though, because like right now you see MSNBC and CNN actually being a little honest about Biden on occasion, so that tells me, one, they know he's unsustainable, so in the meantime, they have to get one of these other candidates some traction. And you can't do that if you're propping up Biden and he's still, getting 40% of the vote. So they have to let some of this shine through, and
so how long do they keep the manipulated polls out? Because he can't keep polling that high and never appear in public.
Yeah, well, and as soon as he appears in public, he goes down. I mean, they know that, even with his audience, even with an older generation. I mean,
the last time they let him out in public, he went straight over to a little fucking black girl and fucking started rubbing on her and parading her in front of people like, look what I can do right in front of you. Ha ha.
Yeah, and even taking that as an innocent thing, if you're self-aware and able to not make terrible blunders, who you are if you're Biden, and that's not going to play well.
Yeah, but then he's got this like career of not being self-aware, where there's that like 10-second clip where he's talking about how he marched in the civil rights movement, and then it breaks to the narrator going, Joe Biden never marched in the civil rights movement. I mean, it's
right. And his campaign kept telling him not to say that anymore. And he's like, yeah, whatever.
Kept going out there and hammering it. It was the same with the plagiarism thing when he had to withdraw in '88. His campaign staff was like, dude, you're lying about this. Why do you have to go out there day after day and tell the same story? Somebody's going to call you on your shit. And he fucking was like, great, got it.
Right. Well, see, I mean, that's why I say, we know his policies are awful. We know his history is awful. We know his platform is awful. We know anything progressive in it is bullshit. But to Joe public that's propping him up right now, they really are not going to get those messages much. I mean, but when they see a Republican produced 30-minute clip of him touching kids, that will register with them, but they haven't seen that yet, you know. But that's why the electable argument is crap with Biden, because
they keep taking down all of the YouTube videos that are just compilations of him touching kids.
Yeah, but they won't be able to hide that shit forever. I mean,
no. And you know what? If Joe Biden was not the favored son of the establishment, if he was even as like unlikable overall as Pete Buttigieg is,
right?
the DNC would have already put out those videos.
Yeah, they could take him down themselves anytime they want, you know. And I think that's part of why they are letting some of his actual stuff, his negative stuff, get shown on TV lately. I think they need to build somebody else up. I think the plan with Biden is to have him come in third, and then his delegates go to Kamala or somebody else. You know?
Yeah, it's either going to be Harris or Warren. And they're dumb as fuck either way they do it, because Kamala Harris is grossly fucking incompetent as a legislator. Like,
right.
he gets her shit written for her. She goes out and says it, but
yeah, it's nonsense. She didn't back Medicare for all in her own state at the time when Trump was about to dismantle ACA.
She has not written a single piece of legislation. She hasn't written a single piece of legislation that has gone out of committee. But not only that, like, she doesn't write shit. Her staff writes 100% of her shit.
Yeah, well, I've heard that from people who've worked with her, that she's not very productive. But
she's an empty vessel for fucking talking points, and she is there to fucking do what she is told. And like, that sounds fucking mean, but we live in California. We've watched her progress through the fucking state. She was so far to the right that the only reason she won her AG election is because her opponent was a literal fucking blonde-haired, blue-eyed poster child for the Lebensborn, who was like, I will fucking punish this state. Right. It's what I'm into. I'm here to bring pain. And she won by less than 1%.
Yeah, she's pretty awful. I worry more. I mean, the thing about Warren is that everybody has the, well, fuck it, if we would probably at the end of the day vote for Warren thing, you know, like nobody loves her, as some people do, but most people are meh on her from the center and the left. But most people also say, shit, you know, if that's what we have to do, it wouldn't be as bad as everyone else.
My one of my bosses is gung-ho for her.
Yeah.
The campaign paraphernalia is in the office. There's a Warren sticker that I walk by every day that I work. Like, man,
yep,
I'm ready to get fired. I'm gonna do something fun to this. But
you just need to get some never stickers.
Right. I asked him why. I'm like, why is she your candidate? You know, I like what she has to say, and I think we need to get money out of politics. And I'm like, okay.
Money out of politics. She said after the primary, she'll take all the money.
I brought that up.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, where did she say that? Young Turks. Oh, I'm not going to, like, whatever. That's fucking YouTube garbage.
Right.
So because she said she would take corporate money on a YouTube show, you're not going to believe it?
Yeah. Crazy.
You know, yeah. So that's where they're at. All right, Pat, I got to roll, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. I dig our talks.
Right on, man. I wish I'd have made it sooner. Just crazy weekend, but
it's all good.
Anytime, man.
I was kind of half joking with Graz the other day about throwing a fucking cookout for Lefty Media in during harvest season, or
Right
right
on.
into harvest season. But I'm halfway considering it, so I would put that together well in advance and send an invite your way.
Awesome. I'd be out there for
All
sure.
right, man. Well, this has been Slow News Day Live. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Steve Poikinen, and good luck to us all.